This isn't anything new. So here it is. Highlights, shot at the hotspot. Highlights of Tucker Carlson's interview with the Iranian president. So let's go ahead and play it.
من تصور میکنم
You see, I am of the belief that we could very much easily resolve our differences and conflicts with the United States through dialogue and talks. And, the international law would serve as the framework or the basis for a deal in which the rights of all nations, Iranian nation, would be respected. But unfortunately, it was Netanyahu that destroyed these diplomacy and these diplomatic efforts. We have always, we never wanted anything beyond the respect for our rights, rightful rights, enshrined in international law. But as I said, it was Netanyahu that brought unrest to our region and is fomenting unrest and tensions in the region. As I have always said, we have always been after peace. It has been my motto. It has been my belief. It has been my heartfelt opinion that we need to live in peace and harmony during this short and limited time granted to us by God Almighty, to live in peace and tranquility with everybody. And everybody in the world should live like that. But I would also like, on the other hand, to reiterate that our people are capable enough to defend themselves in self-defense during any kind of attack. And I believe that the United States president can very well guide the region and the world to peace and tranquility, or, on the other hand, to lead it to forever wars.
All right, so just so you guys know, in the previous segment that we did on Sunday, and we did clip it as well, Tucker Carlson did tell people that there was a translator, and that there were some moments of which there would be like a little bit of a pause where it looked like two people aren't speaking. So what this had to deal with, and again, I want to pull this up here too. Why won't MSNBC or CNN interview the president of Iran? Because they're following orders. They're following orders. Okay. And so the first part of this was, especially in regards towards whether or not diplomacy is achievable. Now, I do want to pull this up here, and just another aspect of this interview. How do we really, is Iran willing to give up their nuclear program? And also, just a few other clips here as well. Overall, is Iran open to diplomacy? And including, was the International Atomic Energy Agency spying on Iran, giving information to Israel? So I want to pull this up here, and I at least want to get to Mark 44, or at least, hold on, my apologies, Mark 44. Let's go ahead and pull this up here. Oops, sorry about that. Oh boy, in real time, screwing up in real time. Hold on, my fault, folks. Just want to get this done correctly. There you go.
Until Iran does give up that nuclear program, would you be willing to give up the nuclear program in exchange for peace?
I would like to tell you what has happened, and it was Netanyahu since 1984 has created this false mentality that Iran seeks a nuclear bomb, and it has insinuated that Iran is trying to develop a nuclear bomb in the past, and it has put it in the minds of every U.S. president since then, and to make them believe that we would like to have a nuclear bomb. But the truth is that we have never been been after developing a nuclear bomb, not in the past, not presently, or in the future, because this is wrong, and this is in contrast to the religious decree or the fatwa which has been issued by His Eminence, the Supreme Leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran, that so it is religiously forbidden for us to go after a nuclear bomb. And this was always corroborated thanks to our cooperation with IAEA, because they were always there that to verify this and to substantiate that we have never wanted a nuclear bomb. But unfortunately, this cooperation was disturbed by the unlawful attacks against our nuclear facilities.
So you have, according to news reports, withdrawn your cooperation from IAEA, the International Nuclear Regulatory Agency. And so there's, I suppose, no way for the rest of the world to know how much uranium you're enriching and to what extent, to what percentage it's being enriched. And so is there any way to verify, and would you be willing to allow other nations to verify that you are not building nuclear weapons?
Mr. Carlson, sir, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that we were right in the middle of holding talks with the United States. And the President of the United States invited us to hold such talks in order to have peace. And we were told during the process of these negotiations and talks that as long as we don't give the permission to Israel, they are not going to attack you. And we were going to have the next round of the talks very soon. But in the middle of it, suddenly Israel torpedoed the negotiating table. We were sitting at the negotiating table when it happened. And by doing this, they totally ruined and destroyed diplomacy. And in order to answer your question with regards to the surveillance or the supervision over our nuclear program, I would like to say that we are ready to hold talks over it. We have never been the party that has run away from verification. We stand ready to have these supervisions, but unfortunately, as a result of the United States unlawful attacks against our nuclear centers and installations, many of the pieces of equipment and the facilities there have been severely damaged. Therefore, we don't have any access to them. We cannot see, and unless this access is going to be back there again, we have to wait for it and to see what happens and how much they have been damaged so that we can go for the supervision.
There have been a news report.
Now, I want to pause here because there's been so far a collective meltdown by a lot of people who are, I guess, were with the, I guess when everything was still hunky-dory with Tucker Carlson and everybody else way back in 2024, in which, there were people all happy and all ready to get Trump into office. But see, the thing is, there's now a meltdown, a full-on media meltdown, because, or at least amongst on the right, because of how furious they are that Tucker Carlson is actually conducting these interviews with the president of Iran, which, again, I want to pull this up here, just so you guys remember. This was done before by other people in the media. Look, you got George Stephanopoulos, there's Piers Morgan. Look, you have everybody who's in the media sphere interviewing Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who was, again, president of Iran. So why is it different now? The reason why it's different now is because, first of all, there's a need for an ongoing war. All right. War is good for business. War is good for those who want to continue to rack up all the money. Now, I would encourage people to look at Tucker Carlson's interview with an open mind. I'm not asking you to like Tucker Carlson. I'm not asking you to support Tucker Carlson. But I will ask you to sit down and listen to the interview like I have. I got a few more highlights that I do want to play because I think it's imperative that we do listen, that we do hear, and understand everything that is being presented before us, especially in this day and age where you have so many people embracing cancel culture. The way Tucker Carlson has been attacked right now is reminiscent to how the vote blue no matter who people were going after him for interviewing Putin. All right. And for those who don't remember, there was at least allegedly some kind of attempt to hurt Tucker Carlson when he was going to be interviewing Putin in Russia. Now, no journalist, commentator, nobody should be in that kind of amount of pain or worry about what's going to happen to them. I don't support anything like that, and I believe a journalist, a commentator, anyone on social media has every right to interview whoever the hell they want to do. All right? So that's their right. That's his sovereign right to do so. But there's a couple other highlights that I do want to play here. For example, let me go ahead and share this tab here and pull this up here because Tucker Carlson asks, should Americans be afraid of Iran? I think Americans should be afraid of their government, you know. Our politicians are happy to send us to war.
Should we be afraid of Iran?
من تصور میکنم این
I believe that this is a very wrong impression.
Now, hold on. I want to acknowledge something here from Dr. Nick on Kick because I believe in hearing all sides of the story. This is part of a plan to make Tucker look like an independent. That's it. No more, no less. You know, it's always a game. I want to be in the camp of sincerity and think that this is just, an interview that he's doing. But, as I have learned the hard way, don't believe everything you see. But I will say this to all my viewers, whether you're a fan of Tucker Carlson or not, to watch the interview and you yourself make your own conclusions. It's imperative that you do that. Never embrace the cancel culture or censorship. Look at something, analyze it, and then make your own conclusion and do your own research, as that is something I encourage on this show for everyone to do all the time. That's what I encourage, and that's why I love this audience. And don't forget to subscribe.
I believe that this is a very wrong impression that anybody might have of Iran or the Iranians. I would like to remind you that Iran has never invaded another country in the last 200 years. When they say death to the United States, it doesn't mean death to, they don't mean death to the people of the United States or even to the officials of the United States. They mean death to crimes, death to killing and carnage, death to supporting killing others, death to insecurity and instability. This is, have you ever heard that an Iranian killing an American? Have you ever heard that? Or a terrorist that was Iranian and he carried out a terrorist attack against the Americans? No, it was your president who confessed that the Americans created the ISIS in our region, and they were responsible for this wrong.
And that right there is an oof. But yes, ISIS was a U.S. Frankenstein. Not the first time we made a Frankenstein. A little bit of a history lesson. You guys never heard of this place, and you never heard of this war, right? But sometime in the 1980s, the Soviet Union had its own little Vietnam in a place you never heard of it called Afghanistan. And oh no, what's going to happen? The Soviets are occupying Afghanistan. Oh, goodness gracious. And so the USA managed to get some money and help out this guy. Don't worry, his name isn't important. It never came back to bite us. No consequences whatsoever. Some guy from a Saudi family. Osama bin Laden. I'm pretty sure it's not important. Don't worry about it. So stop asking questions. Not like the first time we made a Frankenstein. Nor is it going to be the last. And don't forget, even Trump was the most transparent president ever. I know I keep repeating myself, but most transparent president ever. During his first term saying, well, and he was asked, why are we in Syria? Why are we in the Middle East? He didn't say because of freedom, democracy, rebuilding a country. He didn't say for helping out the people. We're there for the oil. Most transparent president ever. The whole establishment crapped their pants. They made that brown.
Image that is portrayed of religion or the Muslims in the world. And once again, I would like to tell you and remind you that this is not death to the American people or to the officials. Death to crimes and atrocities, to bullying, to the use of force. And anybody who would like to become an accomplice in the crimes perpetrated by others.
And don't forget, Amy L. Sachs says, Kit, we can't talk about this because Jimmy Carter was a saint. LOL. Okay, maybe Ford was involved too. I don't know. I've lost track. Look, folks, and hold on. I want to get this. Hold on. Ram. End title card. Don't forget, the original end title card was changed. Was changed to the gallant people of Afghanistan. Don't forget Rambo 3. All right? The film ends. An on-screen caption. This film is dedicated to the gallant people of Afghanistan. At some point after the 9/11 attacks, an urban legend began when the dedication had actually read to the brave Mujahideen fighters of Afghanistan when the film was released. Don't worry. That was an urban legend. The original one. We're not going to have a Berenstein Bears moment. Berenstein. Which one is it? We're not going to have that moment here. Not on my watch. But hold on. There's one more segment that I do want to play because, you know, everyone wants to be afraid. Are there sleeper cells? Are there sleeper cells here in the USA? Are there?
Should we be afraid?
There's because there's a large number of people saying there's sleeper cells.
Some large number of Iranian nationals living in the United States. Some have said they are, quote, sleeper cells. They are terrorists who are acting at the command of your government. Would you right now make a statement to Iranian citizens living in the United States not to commit acts of violence in the United States?
You see, these things you're telling me, this is the first time I'm hearing them from you or from anybody. You know, the Iranians are known for their knowledge, for their science, for their courtesy, for being civilized. Have you seen otherwise from them? Any other kind of behavior from them or any violent behavior? Has anybody ever seen anything from them? Yeah, as I said, this is what Israel is trying to put into your minds. They are propagating that Iranians might be capable of doing such a thing, but this is totally untrue because by nature Iranians are pro peace and tranquility, and they're trying to actually make to somehow impact the minds of the decision makers and the people of the United States and to scare them into getting involved in a war in my region that is not going to ensure any kind of interest for the United States. It is not to be in the interest of the United States to be involved in any kind of war in my region.
Hey, again, I could be on board with that. No war. It's not in my country's interest to be at war with the United States. It is not in my country's interest to have any kind of conflict whatsoever. But however, there is a few other things that I do want to pull up here, such as, for example, and there's always this fear that, at least according to intelligence, that apparently Iran is out to get Trump. Trump, calm down. All right. You got enough problems as it is. The big, beautiful bill is going to be one big, beautiful disaster. And on top of that, how could your FBI and Department of Justice screw up so royally on the Epstein files?
Has Iran ever backed an assassination attempt against Donald Trump?
به هیچ وجه.
This is actually what Netanyahu is trying to insinuate and to make your people or the president of your country to believe. But this is wrong because Netanyahu, as I said, has its own agenda. It wants to drag the U.S. into forever wars, as I said, and to bring more insecurity, instability, and unrest to the whole region.
Has Iran ever backed?
So, one other thing here too, because again, there's also the relations with Israel. There's a lot to bring up. All right, there's a lot to bring up, but I do want to pull up this part of where a bigger war, because that's one thing that I was worried about on that Saturday. You know, when I did a live stream, not only over that weekend when the war intensified and there was the 12-day war. In which I had Keaton from Due Dissidence host with me on Saturday's show, but also I had a Sunday show with Larry Sharp and Nick Thompson. You know, one of the concerns I brought up is that this war can lead to a bigger conflict involving superpowers like Russia and China. And this is something that Tucker Carlson brought up. And this is why I have been against any of these kind of military interactions. And I'm glad for the moment, God willing, there is a ceasefire, that there is a peace. But the issue is that if the war ignites again, who's to say that other players won't get involved?
Mr. President, my final question: if we wind up in a broader war, could you expect assistance from Russia and China, military and economic assistance from your allies, Russia and China?
We have always put our trust in God, and in God we trust. And we are capable enough to defend ourselves and to stand on our own 2 feet and to defend our country, our territorial integrity to the last drop of our blood. As I have said again and again, we don't want wars. We don't want to develop a nuclear weapon, and this false image, this wrong mentality created in the minds of the U.S. Decision makers and officials is because of the devilish machinations instigated by Netanyahu and the Israeli regime and its policies based on warmongering. And the U.S. president should know that another war will only spread more instability in the Middle East, and it is not going to be in the interest or in favor of the U.S. president or the U.S. government to move in that or towards that direction. They instead need to choose peace and tranquility, which is something that I am and my government and my country are after. And I also, as I said, I believe that the U.S. president is powerful enough to put Israel, to Netanyahu in their place, to contain them and replace the warmongering, bloodshed, and conflicts with peace and tranquility.
Well, I hope this interview did enlighten you guys. Those were some of the highlights from the Tucker Carlson interview. Please, I encourage everyone to check out the full interview on Tucker Carlson's social media. I'm not asking you guys just to automatically just support anything that Tucker Carlson is doing. No, that's the one thing I will not do. What I will encourage all of you to do is, unlike the people who have been calling for his censorship and suppression, and I understand a lot of people can be critical of Tucker and view him with suspicion. Don't forget, Putin called him out for being with the CIA. However, what I find fascinating is how MAGA now seems to be having a collective meltdown for him doing this interview. But to those influencers in MAGA, I think you now have to look at your boy Trump for failing miserably with the Department of Justice and FBI. Now that both departments are saying that Jeffrey E. didn't do anything to himself. All right, the last person you need to worry about is Tucker Carlson, and I will make this prediction. This interview will gain momentum and traction throughout this entire week until something else will capture our attention, either some national tragedy or global tragedy. Don't worry, this is planet Earth. There's always going to be some kind of tragedy around the corner, some kind of political corruption, bribery, or scandal, or maybe a cute dog story that will capture everyone's hearts and minds, and we will forget this interview ever happened. Hey, liberals, remember how you said that Putin interview was going to destroy everything? Remember Tucker and Putin having that interview and it was going to be so devastating? Yeah. Turns out the only really devastating thing that happened to the media was the fact that when they decided to cover up and edit, and looking at you, CBS, here's loving you, CBS, your Kamala Harris interview, right? How'd that turn out? So my takeaway is this. All right, he interviewed the president of Iran. Obviously, the real power lies with the Ayatollah and the generals, the commanders. I mean, that's if you're looking at power and perception of reality, all buck stop with the Ayatollah, and then there's the military generals and commanders. Right now, there's a ceasefire, and all seems quiet. But that's not going to last long. We all know that Netanyahu is dealing with a massive corruption trial. And the best way he can distract all of his opponents and everybody else is by having an ongoing continuous war. And we're seeing that still continue on in Gaza, where civilians are starving to death. We're still seeing the back and forth pop shots between Israel and Lebanon. And let's not forget how Syria has been turned into a mini Libya with all the problems and anarchy that follows. War will happen again, as it always does. And the civilians on both sides will get hurt. It's not in our interest for war. It's not in America's interest for continuous war. These wars have got to stop. We've been involved in the Middle East since 2001. Hell, we've been involved even longer than that. But active conflict, since 2001, we have seen no gain. We've seen nothing but further destruction. At the end of the day, I was ever hopeful for Thomas Massey's resolution to be successful. But like I said, I was wrong to believe in hope. So it's up to us, the people, to show the world that we don't support this. Is it in our interest for forever war? Do we really want to reflect on a point or even have the concept or conversation of, do you guys remember the last time we had peace? I mean, think about it. Bring it up at a conversation, at a dinner party, or at a coffee with friends. Do you remember the last time we all had peace? I don't think anybody will remember. And that's a shame.